This week's video is brought to you by the generosity of Captain Matthew Nicholson, Ronald Morgan, and I'm just happy to be a stormtrooper, Adam Jordan. You are all a credit to the Empire, my friends, and we thank you for your support. This is Vader Reviews. We are honored that you would join us. This will be a day long remembered. It has seen the end of Kenobi and his series. Ever since our climactic battle on Mustafar, I've been the toast of the town in my Wizard Black space threads, and Star Wars fans have been waiting since May 25th, 1983 to see a big-budget lightsaber battle with me in my iconic armor once again. And while this series has been hit or miss with me personally, this Battle of Heroes definitely delivers. But what's that? Still need your Vader fix after the Kenobi series finale? Well, fear not, Vader fans, because we are nearing completion on our fan film, Star Wars Fallen Jedi. We have a playlist of behind-the-scenes featurettes documenting the production of this film. A link is in the description. Rather than break down the entire episode like I usually do, I'm only going to discuss the duel of fates between myself and Kenobi. Because, let's be honest here, we all knew Third Sister wasn't going to kill Luke. He still has 3 movies ahead of him, for crying out loud. And frankly, I don't care about Reva as a character. To put it in Turbo Man terms, since it was my favorite show as a kid, Reva is the Booster of the Kenobi series, and nobody likes Booster. So, let's get to the good stuff. Certain shots of my Star Destroyer pursuing Kenobi reminded me of The Empire Strikes Back. They even used some very John Williams-esque music during this sequence, which made it feel a lot like the classic Star Wars films. Obi-Wan leaves the rebel transport in a smaller ship, but escape is not his plan. I must face him alone. I follow him to the surface in my personal Lambda-class shuttle, one of my all-time favorite Star Wars vehicles, where we meet again at last. While I did love the build-up for the duel, I do wish we had fought in someplace more interesting, like an Imperial facility with lots of steam and mood lighting, rather than a basic stony planet. I don't know, maybe it was a visual metaphor for our rocky relationship. But it just looked kind of boring. And while our first encounter was a bit McClunky, here, the choreography was a mixture of prequel era and original trilogy fighting styles, and I absolutely loved it. And rather than bury the hatchet, I decide to bury my old master instead, for turning me into an extra crispy version of the Black Knight from Monty Python. I even get the high ground this time, which makes my revenge even sweeter. But just when things look bleak for our hero, Obi-Wan pulls a Spider-Man. Spidey tends to get buried under rubble, then he thinks about Mary Jane or Aunt May and everyone who's counting on him, and he finds the strength to break free and save the day. And this is exactly what Obi-Wan does here. He remembers Luke and Leia, and as great as it was, I do wish we could have gotten a Qui-Gon voiceover here, because it would have been so much more powerful. But don't take my word for it, see for yourself.
Obi-Wan, you are not alone. Don't be afraid. I have always been here. Feel the Force. Let it guide you. Be at peace.
See what I mean? All I did was quickly record a version of the Force theme and use a free text-to-speech app for Qui-Gon's voice with some reverb added later. It took me all of 15 minutes, and I'm just one old cyborg with a cheap Walmart laptop. Anyway, I was hoping our rematch of the century would have the intensity of SC-38 reimagined, and surprisingly, it did. The level of aggression in this duel was exactly what I wanted to see. I also thought it was very clever how Obi-Wan destroyed my breathing regulator panel, so he could defeat me. Of course, the biggest moment of the fight was when Kenobi cut off half of my mask, giving me the long scar on the top of my head that we see in Return of the Jedi. And I know, they did something similar to this in Rebels with Ahsoka, but for me personally, it has more emotional resonance in this series because it's actually Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor on screen together, rather than their animated counterparts, and I was very impressed by their performances. They were raw and emotional. Hayden Christensen particularly proves everyone was wrong when they said he can't act, because he manages to deliver a haunting, sympathetic, but absolutely chilling performance using just one eye in this scene. And that, my friends, is acting. But while this fight was pretty wizard, I still can't excuse Obi-Wan for leaving me alive once again. In fact, this entire series seems to be one giant showcase of why you need to make sure and finish your opponents. It's like no one ever played Mortal Kombat before. But hey, all I really wanted to see out of this episode was a good Vader duel, and they came through on that, so I'm a happy little camper indeed. I just decided to watch it like it was a high-budget fan film. You know, a cool YouTube video to pass the time. And the best part is, if you want to see this whole fight, people have posted it already on here, so we can all enjoy it. After Kenobi leaves me alive for the second time, this brings us to the end of the episode, where they finally use some classic Star Wars themes, as Kenobi says goodbye to baby Leia, which was a really sweet and heartwarming scene. We also finally get to see Ian McDairmid return as Palpatine, for like about 5 seconds. Anytime Palpatine and Vader are on screen together is a win in my book. We just needed more of the guy. I kinda miss that creepy, wrinkly old prune. My biggest surprise was seeing none other than Aslan himself, Liam Neeson, return as Qui-Gon Jinn, in a scene that feels like an end credits sequence leading to a new series. And I will say, while this show was rife with problems, and most of it felt like filler, boy oh howdy did this final episode pay off, as far as lightsaber combat is concerned. I finally had a smile on my face at the end of this episode. And the failures of this series aren't my fault, really. Reva's just a boring character. I actually saved the show. Mostly. On a whole, this series wasn't as good as Mandalorian, but it was way better than Boba Fett. After watching this finale, I did feel very happy, and I haven't felt that way watching a Star Wars show in some time. So it was refreshing, to say the least. Because if nothing else, I at least got a wizard lightsaber duel. And at the end of the day, that's all I was really hoping for in this final chapter. But those are my thoughts on it. What did you think of it? Comment below and let me know. And if you're new to the channel, join the Empire today by subscribing. You do not yet realize your importance. Share these videos, and together we will rule the internet. And always remember, you don't know the power of the dark side.